currently we cannot use this Cubit inside of this application, because if I put some dummy data inside of these inputs, and if I click to this login button, as you see, nothing is happening because we didn't put any validation. So that is very important. For example, if user is not putting anything inside of this form field and clicks to this login button, we should show some error message in the screen and let the user know that you have to put the value inside of this text form field. That's why we can go back to our login screen, and here inside of text form field, we can use validator. This validator is getting the value that we write inside of this text form field, and depending on it, we can return some error message. So for error message, actually, I will just check if this value is empty or not. So we can say if the value is null, in this case, show this message that we are returning. And we're gonna say, please enter your email. So if the value is not null, we can just return null for this validator. So if we return null, nothing is going to happen in the UI. We can apply this validator for the second form field as well. So inside of this text form field, we can just paste it. So currently this validator is not going to work because we have to pass form key to this form. That's why we can go to this login Cubit, and here we can define a form key. Also, we have to pass this email and password controllers to the text form fields. So here I will define a form key that is going to be global key, and it will take the form state, and that's it. So we have created form key and also controllers. Now, how can we provide it to the login screen? Here, inside of the form, as you remember, there is a key. And from here, we can use context.read. And then inside of this read, we can define our Cubit, which is going to be login Cubit. Then we need to import this Cubit. And from the instance of this context, we can get the form key. And as you see, there is no any issue. And also, I corrected something in my code. Mistakenly, I installed the block itself. So we need to install this Flutter block instead of just the block. And for doing this, you can just add the dependency. And instead of just the block, you have to use Flutter block. So that is the package that we need in order to use our Cubit. For this text form fields, we can pass the controllers. So for the first one, we need to pass email controller. So I'm gonna get this one. And from this, we can use email controller. For the second text form field, we can use the controller. And inside of it, we can use password controller. Now let's go back to our application. And here we are getting error. So that's very logical because we didn't provide this to our login screen. So without providing this Cubit, we are trying to consume it. That's the problem. Inside of app.dart, we can wrap this login screen with block provider. And here we can define our Cubit, and we can say login Cubit. We can also import this block provider. We have to get rid of this constant. Also, let's use the constant for the login screen. Now we will need to restart our application. As you see, we are not getting any issue right now. Now let's test this validator. So without adding any value, I can click to this login. Now, as you can see, nothing is changing in our UI. That's happening because we need to call a method that comes from this form key. So I will take this form key. Inside of this elevated button, we can call the method from this form key. And that method is going to be current state dot validate. And when this method is called, this validator method is going to be triggered. And we're gonna see if our form is validated or not. Here we are getting the error because it says the state can be null, and we can say that, okay, it can be null. We are using exclamation point. Now, if I go back and click to this login button, and as you can see, please enter your email. We are not getting the same one for the password because as an error value, I use the same errors. Here, I just need to change it to please enter your password. So let's restart our application and let's click to this login button. Now, as you see, as a second text form field, we are not getting the error. That's happening because for the first if statement, we are checking if the value is empty, but for the second validator, we are not checking it. That's why we have to also check if the value is empty or not. And now let's click to this login button. And as you can see, we are getting the error message. If I put something inside of these fields, and again, if I click to this login button, again, this validate method will be called and automatically these validators will be triggered. And just because the value is not null or is not empty, we are not getting any error.